Hi, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Follow Your Passion. Let me introduce my guest of today. He's Bryan Clayton. Bryan is the co-founder and CEO of Greenpal, an online marketplace that connects homeowners with local lawn care professionals. Greenpal has been called the Uber of lawn care by Entrepreneur magazine and has over 100,000 active users, completing thousands of transactions per day. Before starting Greenpal, Bryan founded Peachtree, one of the largest landscaping companies in the state of Tennessee, growing it to $10 million a year in annual revenue before it was acquired by Lusa Holdings in 2013. Bryan's interests and expertise are related to entrepreneurism, small business growth, marketing, and bootstrapping businesses from zero revenue to profitability and exit. And I guess Bryan has green fingers as well. Welcome, Bryan. How are you doing?
I'm great, Erwin. Thanks for having me on your show today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So, Bryan, how did you end up in the lawn care business?
I was actually forced into it. My dad forced me into business ownership on a hot summer day in 1995. He interrupted me playing Super Mario Brothers and said, "Get off your butt. I got a gig for you. You're going to go mow the neighbor's yard." Luckily, he did that because I wasn't living in a democratic household. This was a direct order. And he made me go mow the neighbor's yard. And I made like $20 in an hour's work. And I was hooked. Ever since then, I was hooked on business ownership. I thought, man, this is incredible. Why doesn't everybody do this? And I passed out, the first thing I did is I made a bunch of flyers and passed them out all over the neighborhood. Got like 10 customers in a week. And I was just off and going from there. I just stuck with this little lawn mowing business all through high school, all through college. And when I graduated college from business school, I made a little business plan and ended up growing one of the larger landscaping businesses in the Southeast United States, growing that business over like 10 million a year in revenue, around 150 employees. And in 2013, that company was acquired by a national company. And so after that, I took like a year off and I got bored. And I thought, well, what am I going to do now? What should I do with my life now? And I started to realize that my purpose in my life was my business, that without a business, I was missing like a mission. And I thought, well, somebody's going to build an app to make like lawn mowing as easy as an Uber. Push a button, somebody should come mow your yard. And I thought somebody's going to do it. Might as well be me. And that naivete got me in the game. But started working on my company now, Greenpal, which is like the Uber for lawn mowing. And now Greenpal is a 10-year overnight success. We're nationwide, United States, around 300,000 people using the app to get their lawn mowed.
Nice. And but I think it's actually brilliant to come up with such an idea. That how did you? Was it just like you got this insight? Lawn mowing should be easier, or how did you come up with the idea?
Yeah, I think when you're coming up with a new product, a new service, something that does not yet exist, authenticity can be a competitive advantage. It can be helpful to be solving your own problem. And that's definitely how it was for me. Growing my lawn mowing company from just me and a push mower to me and 100 some odd people, I saw a lot of these problems every day with how inefficient the marketplace works. And as I grew that business, we grew it to become a commercial-oriented company. And what I mean by that is we did office complexes, apartment complexes, restaurants, banks. We no longer did residential services, but people would still call my office every day begging us to come and do just their basic lawn maintenance for them. And so we would just refer them out to other smaller service providers, one man, one woman operators, that were better fit for their service. And so in effect, we were kind of this connector service. People would call in and we would connect them with somebody who was a good fit for them. We were just doing it to be helpful. And I saw this like inefficiency in the marketplace in real life for many years. So when I sold that company, I thought, well, and you've got people who need to get this service done. And then you got a bunch of smaller operators who are hard to find. They're difficult to hire. It's difficult to schedule them. They don't have a receptionist. When you call them, you get a voicemail, and the voicemail box is usually full. And so I thought, an app could solve all these problems. I didn't know how hard it was going to be to build that app, but I knew the problem existed, and so that was the good thing. I saw it. I knew somebody needed to build an app to make it work, and so that's what we did.
Nice, nice. Did you hit any roadblocks building the app?
Yeah, it's like entrepreneurship is going from failure to failure without a loss of enthusiasm.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's how it certainly was for us. One thing that caught me off guard building a technology product versus running a blue collar business was that when you enter into the technology realm, you usually are like bringing a new innovation to the marketplace. You're usually bringing a new product to the marketplace, and you're inventing something brand new from scratch. And that's a lot more challenging than just running a traditional style business. I didn't know that. And so when you're inventing a new product, you basically don't have a roadmap. You're figuring it out as you go. You're testing things, you're trying things, it's not working, you're trying this, it's not working. Okay, why didn't it work? And you're applying those lessons learned, trying to figure out the roadmap as you go. And so that was the main challenging thing. But right out of the gate, I mean, we made a big mistake. My two co-founders and I, we didn't know how to code. We didn't know how to build software. We weren't engineers. Yeah. And so we thought, well, all we need to do is just pay a development shop, a development agency to build the app, and we'll market it and we'll be off and going. That's literally what we thought. And so we did that, and we pulled together our money, like $150,000, $200,000, and we paid a development agency shop to build what we thought Greenpal should be. It took them like 9 months, and we delivered this thing to the market. It was dead on arrival. Like it was clunky to use. It was total failure. And that was a hard lesson to learn, that yeah. if we were going to be in the technology business, we had to learn how to build software. So we spent like a year just like online university, YouTube university, boot camps, online courses, learning how to build software, then applied that to the project, and we were able to rebuild it from scratch from the inside out.
Nice. I just get this image, maybe you've seen it as well, of somebody wants a swing, and it goes like to every department in a company, and every department has its own definition of the swing.
Yeah, exactly right. That's exactly right. And that's kind of how it was using a shop to build this app. It was like all kinds of inefficiencies in terms of communicating what we thought our customers wanted to what was actually getting built. Trying to build a piece of technology with no engineers on the team is kind of like trying to open a 5-star restaurant with no chef. That's how silly the idea was. And so we had to learn that lesson the hard way. Very painful. Luckily, we didn't give up.
But it's like you said, it's going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm.
Yes.
You knew there was a need for it. So you just, you persevered, and finally you got on top of it.
That's the thing. You talk to whatever few customers you have. At the time, we had like 20. And half of them were friends and family. And we would hear from them. They would be like upset that it didn't work for whatever reason. The guy didn't show up, or the guy showed up and he did a terrible job, or the guy like showed up and did the front yard but not the backyard, or the guy showed up and his lawnmower was too big to fit in the fence, or whatever. A million things that could go wrong.
Yeah. And
so they were upset that it didn't work, but they never told us, I don't need this. They never told us this wouldn't solve a problem for me. They never told us, like, why are you building this? This is stupid. You always saw disappointment. And so the disappointment for us was validation to keep going.
Yeah, definitely.
If you don't see that, like if it's not working and people are like, I could do without it, then it's probably a good idea to pivot on to something else. But for us, we saw that people wanted this.
Yeah, and the feedback you got was they needed some additional features. That's so that they could make it work for them.
Yeah, they needed additional features, and they needed like the primary feature, which was push a button, somebody comes and makes your grass short. They needed that feature to work.
Yeah, exactly.
They needed that feature to work like Uber works. You push a button, somebody comes picks you up. As simple as that sounds, that is extremely complex to deliver in the real world. And that's the same thing with us with lawn maintenance. We have to solve all those problems on the back end, and that's what we went to work on doing. It took us about 5 years to get it right.
Wow, nice. And I know that your app is now national in the USA. But you're also thinking about taking it across the border, right? You're currently in Switzerland.
I am currently in Switzerland as we speak, doing some traveling and also meeting with some strategic investors that are looking to make an investment in our company. And so we are in the plans, in the works of bringing it across the pond, so to speak, into UK first and then throughout the rest of Europe. In Europe, there's a big, I guess you could say, adoption of robotic technology where people are starting to use robots. And so we are looking for ways to integrate robots into our app. So where you can kind of like you can order an Uber X, Uber Black. You can maybe order a bus on Uber. I think now you can get a bus ticket. We are looking at layering in additional options. Okay, you can hire a traditional lawn care service, or you can hire a robotic-based service. So we're looking at ways to deliver more innovation to make this easier.
Nice, interesting. And is the Greenpal also, let's put it this way, limited to residential clients, or is it also for businesses?
Yeah, you nailed it. So we are focused on one use case: basic residential services. You wouldn't think it, but the commercial side of lawn care and lawn maintenance and landscape maintenance and the residential side are almost two completely different industries. It requires a different company, a different type of equipment, different skill set, different insurances, different regulations. And really the need is in the basic lawn care service for somebody who just wants somebody to maintain their yard every week or every 2 weeks. That's actually really tough for some reason. You might get somebody out to take care of it for you one time, and then they just drop off the face of the earth. Or they do it for like 6 months, and then they raise the price on you for no reason. Or they start doing a good job, and then they start doing a poor job. Our platform and being the accountability layer in that relationship really delivers value to consumers while making it easy for contractors to do those types of stops and make money doing it.
Nice. What you see with Uber, that you can rate the driver, if he did a good job and if he was friendly and stuff like that. I guess it's something also with the lawn care professionals that they get rating from the clients and customers.
Yeah, that's one of the main points of where we capture value and deliver innovation that doesn't exist in the I guess traditional sense. So let's say you want to hire a lawn care service the old way. You kind of have to take a leap of faith. You can get names and phone numbers. I mean, go to Google and you can get a list of names and phone numbers. You can ask for recommendations and get names and phone numbers, but you don't really know if these guys are any good or not. You don't really know if they're going to show up on time. Whereas with our platform, we close the loop. And so we capture the feedback for every service. So how did they do? Did they do a good, clean, thorough job? And then the other thing is, did they show up on time? Did they show up on the day they were supposed to? We score that. And then we show those scores to homeowners to be able to make the best informed decision. And then also contractors know they are being held accountable. So they are kind of incentivized to show up on the day they're supposed to. They're incentivized to follow up and make sure that the homeowner was happy because there's this accountability layer now that didn't exist, in the old way of doing things.
Nice. And it also got me started thinking, because you've built the app for Greenpal, right? It's right. Residential clients and probably solopreneurs or small business owners with lawn care services that are connected now in this marketplace. But I guess the platform itself has also much more potential to deliver similar services for other parts that residential users need. One thing I'm thinking about is maybe house cleaning, for instance.
Yes. So when you're building a platform like this, strategically, you're always trying to, you're not at odds, but you're trying to make the best bets you can with what direction you take it. So you can go deep or you can go wide. And at a certain point in time, once you achieve scale, going deep, you can then start to go wide on other things. So classic example would be Uber and Uber Eats. Or you can look at like in other parts of the world, Grab in Southeast Asia is like the Uber there, but you can also do a lot of other stuff with Grab. And so for us, it's always on the roadmap of, okay, when are we going to start layering on adjacent services For us, the answer is once we reach a point of diminishing returns in terms of like, okay, we have gobbled up as much of the lawn care space as we can, then let's start going into other verticals. That's probably when we'll start doing that. But for us, there's just like, it's in the United States alone, it's a $90 billion industry. You wouldn't think it's that big, but it's a $90 billion industry, and there's over 1 million contractors. And so for us, we're doing around 30 million a year in revenue. We have 32,000 contractors that use it. So we're just a drop in the bucket in terms of just this one use case in just the United States. So it's always like a balance between going wide and going deep.
Yeah. So it's literally speaking still a green field for you.
Absolutely. It really is. I mean, it still is day one, even though we're 10 years in.
Nice. So how big is the company if you're talking about Greenpal?
Yeah, the company, so around 300,000 people using the app to hire contractors, around 30,000 contractors using the app to run their business. Internally, the teams in terms of engineers, designers, content creators, marketers, data scientists, project managers, we're around 47 people.
47.
Yeah, and that's a good size. I like running a company of this size. I think in every company, there's like three phases. There's the startup, which is like just trying to get an idea off the ground, and there's their grow up, and then there's the scale up. And so we're right in that grow up phase where we're doing 8 figures a year in revenue. We want to get to 9 figures, and then you start to get into scale up stuff, which I've never done before. Quite frankly, it doesn't really appeal to me. I don't really want to run a huge company. I don't want to run a company with hundreds of employees. So at that point, we'll either entertain one of these acquisition offers, or we'll put a professional CEO in there.
Nice. And it's what I tell my clients as well, that if you're starting a company, then ideally you make yourself obsolete. You have to have an exit strategy.
Absolutely.
Right? Not meaning that you're going to sell the company, but when the company is making money without you actively participating in it, then you can focus on the fun stuff, so to speak. You know, it's what you said. You can actually you can discover a new market where what you could open with your app, right?
Exactly.
Or you can build strategic relationships with your key customers or your key partnerships. You can even cherry pick the clients you want to work with, and yeah, so it sounds like you're going that way as well. So that's great to hear.
Yeah. Well, after I sold my first business, I think it can be helpful to get like a single or a double, using a baseball metaphor, a single or a double under your belt. So then when you run your second business, you kind of do it how you want. And that's how it's unfolded for me. I've been working on this project for 10 years. There's been some 100-hour weeks, but I haven't worked a day in 10 years. I've always done what it is I wanted to do that day. And so I've had fun doing it. And so that's a great place to be when you're trying to get a business going, because you're just doing the thing you want to do. I made a promise to myself after I sold my first company that I was always going to be working on my best idea, no matter what. And Greenpal was my best idea. It still is my best idea. I guess fortunately, I'm not like terribly creative, and I don't get this bright shiny object syndrome like I did. Like I've had one good idea in 10 years, and I just keep working on it, and it's fun for me. And I think that's important. That's what keeps you going through the hard parts.
Yeah, definitely. And it's great that you found what you're passionate about, right? I had a interview with another entrepreneur as well, and she said that sometimes people are afraid to follow their passion, because when their passion becomes work, they're afraid they won't like it anymore. But for me, that's because of the definition of work, right? Because if you would define it like, you know, I'm going to do my passion full time and people are willing to pay for that, that's a whole different definition. And that's what you said as well. You know, you had some 100-hour weeks, but as long as you enjoy what you're doing, it doesn't feel like work, and you don't mind putting in the hours because you know what you're working on, you know, and you know it will pay out at the end. And that's keeping the motivation, and that's a different thing than working.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like, I'm not passionate about cutting yards. In fact, I hate the smell of freshly cut grass. Hate it. I have mowed thousands of yards in my life personally, so I never want to do another one of those again. But I am passionate about the results. I'm passionate about my team members, my co-founders, my stakeholders, like being on this journey with me and all of us together getting where we're trying to go. I am passionate about seeing things work and trying things and taking risks and seeing it pay off. That's a lot of fun. So I'm passionate about the results and winning and accomplishing hard things. That's a lot of fun. The process is a grind at times. So I think it's important to distinguish too. I think a lot of like your Gen X entrepreneurs and maybe even millennial entrepreneurs, you know, maybe they're passionate about hiking and they want to make $1 million a year hiking. And it's really hard to do that. So it's like, I think it's important to be passionate about the results, the rewards, the feeling you get when you accomplish something that's hard. That's what you get passionate about. You're not going to get necessarily passionate about like grinding out your 100th blog post or doing your 100 pitches a day. You know, I have my co-founder is in charge of our PR, and for 10 years, all he has done is PR, and every day he sends out 100 pitches, and like to journalists, every single day 100 pitches. He is not passionate about sending out PR pitches. He is passionate about when we achieve our goals and we grow sales by 40% and we knock down like 10 more markets. So I think it's important to like distinguish the two and not mislead these younger entrepreneurs who want to be passionate about something that necessarily won't make them any money.
Yeah. And I think you had a very good point on that. It's the passion of seeing an idea come to life and being the success you had in mind. You know, you had a certain vision for Greenpal and your co-founders as well. And then you're passionate about doing whatever is needed to make that a success, to make it come alive and to achieve those goals.
That's right.
And that's
fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying on that. So Bryan, if you look at the marketplace for Greenpal, you already said it, you know, it's $1 billion market. So what percentage of the markets would you like to get with Greenpal?
You know, it's funny, like everybody's always like, the market's so big, and if we just get 1%, we'll have $1 billion company. So like that top down thinking usually never works out. And so we don't think about it in terms of like it's a $100 billion market, and if we could just snatch 1% of it. We just always think bottom up, and it's, you know, we're doing 30 million a year. How do we get to 100 million? I think looking at like business as like a video game almost, and not even worrying about anything other than the level you're on has worked out for us. So like for instance, Super Mario Brothers, 10 to 12 levels, you know, work one level at a time. Don't even think about Bowser or levels 9 and 10 if you're on level 6 or 7. And so for us, maybe metaphorically, we're on level 6 or 7. And so we're just focused on how do we get to level 7. Don't even worry about Bowser right now. That'll come later.
Yeah, definitely. But it's also, if you're thinking about growing the business, like you said, you know, you're 30, you want to achieve 100 million business. That would also mean that you're tripling your revenue, right?
Yes, but it gets harder as the numbers get bigger.
Exactly. And do you also, and that could be like the chicken and egg discussion, because it would mean theoretically you have to triple your business as well with regards to employees, you know, staff members, stuff like that. And it can be hard to know, do I scale my business up front to get to this 100 million, or do I first get the sales and then scale up my business, you know, having the risk of not getting the right employees at the right moment? So how do you deal with that, Bryan?
Yeah, so the way the way you laid it out, the chicken and egg problem, you build out the infrastructure and then backfill it with the sales. is that typical kind of like venture capital model where we have belief, we have all of this evidence that we put all of this money in and build out all this infrastructure, we can backfill it with the revenue. And when it works out, it's a beautiful thing. But a lot of times it doesn't, and a lot of times these startups crash and burn. We are self-funded. We have not raised any outside capital, which has been a good strategy for us because it's kind of kept us course corrected every step of the way. And so what I mean by that is when you fund a business off of its own revenues, it keeps everything in check. You can't afford to like grow headcount too much, so you don't. And then also you as the founder, you don't get ahead of your skis. You grow with the business too, as revenue grows. So it's kind of this natural like course correcting thing. And it may sound like, well, then why doesn't everybody do that? Well, the reality is it's really, really tough. Like the first 5 years, I didn't take a paycheck for 4 years. My co-founders didn't either. Every dime the business made, we poured back in. And so it's hard to get the flywheel going with no outside capital. But as you get going, like where we are now, we naturally have this regulating mechanism called sales, which keeps us in check to make sure we don't like grow headcount too much. But it's tough. Like right now, there's 3 people I want to hire that should make $400,000 or $500,000 a year that I can't afford. And so I'm relying on contractors and consultants and freelancers to backfill that until I grow sales, until I can afford that person full time. The good thing about these days is you can hire these senior level people fractionally. So you can hire the best chief of product. You can hire the best SEO strategy lead. You can hire the best product designer fractionally. So like an hour a week or 2 or 5 hours a week, and they can inform your strategy. And then you can like execute these things with lower level people or yourself. And that way you don't have this bloat where you can't necessarily afford this person, but you've hired them, and now you're burning $100,000 a month or $1 million or $10 million a month. And then it's like a ticking time bomb. For us, we've always focused on like default alive, no matter what, we're going to be in business. We're making money. We're cash flow positive. And that's a good place to be. With the uncertainty right now and the macroeconomic climate, I have never lost a night's sleep. Whereas other startups that have raised, 5, 10, 50, $100 million, they know that in 6 months, if they don't raise another round of funding, it's over. And look, I don't really want to do that. That's not fun.
No, it almost sounds like you're filling one gap with another one.
Yeah, and when the spinning plates or when it all works out, it's beautiful. But a lot of times it doesn't. And that founding team has wasted 10 years of their life or 5, and they have nothing to show for it. And that's a sad thing that doesn't get talked about very often.
Yeah, definitely. Nice. So what do you do for yourself to keep yourself growing and developing as well? Are you part of a mastermind, or do you have a coach, or what do you do to keep developing yourself?
Yeah, I think if you're doing any kind of business properly, and it could be any business, it could be a hot dog stand, it could be a lawn mowing business like I had, you're growing alongside the business. So you as a founder should evolve into a whole new person every like 1, 2, or 3 years. And that's one of the cool things about it. It's like you are growing alongside of the business. And that's one of the things I love about it. So I'm naturally having to learn new skills. Like I said, I'm like a level 6 or 7, metaphorically. Now I'm having to pick up books on data science. I'm having to pick up books on strategy that I never had to pick up before, on strategically where I take this thing. And I'm reading stuff that I never in a million years would read. So that's one of the cool things about business that kind of keeps me leveled up. I don't have per se a coach, but I do have like 20 different founders who have mentored me along the way asynchronously. And what I mean by that is I have consumed everything they have put out, whether it be on their blog, on YouTube, on podcasts, and I've learned from them. They don't know who I am. The guy who founded Uber, Travis Kalanick, doesn't know who I am, but I have learned so much from Travis over the last 15 years, just watching him, listening to keynote talks he's given at conferences, things like that. And so that's my style. I like to go to the very top, learn from them asynchronously, and then apply that to what I'm doing in my little world.
Nice, nice. That's important. You know, I always say the best investment you can make is in yourself.
Absolutely.
Because that will never go away and it won't diminish in value. And by reading books and looking at others, how they did it, and not copying them, but applying the principles to your own business is key to your success, I believe.
Absolutely. And the good news these days is this stuff is all at our fingertips. You know, when I was starting my first business in the late 90s, I literally had like cassette tapes of some guys talking at a conference. Like, you know, I was like, oh, that was the only way I could learn.
Yeah.
These days, I mean, there's a million different ways you can learn from practitioners who have been there and done that. Mark Cuban says, never take advice from somebody who isn't doing or already has done what it is you're trying to do. And the good news is you can look at people who have done things that you are trying to do and learn from them so much easier than ever before. There's almost no excuse to just get in the game and start working on it.
Yeah, indeed. You know, I love talking to you, Bryan. You got a lot of wisdom and experience in building a business and profitably as well. If you could share a little tip or piece of wisdom with the audience, what would it be, Bryan?
You know, I'm guilty of this, especially in the early years. It's like less time planning and thinking and more time doing. And what I mean by that is a lot of times new founders, they will like just get into this rut of planning and thinking and strategizing and business planning and not have one customer. And Mike Tyson says, you know, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the nose. Every founder has a plan until they get their first customer. And no business plan survives first contact with the customer. So whatever the distance between where you're at today and 10 customers, close that distance. And what I mean by that is like hack together some kind of prototype, figure out a way to get your first customer, learn from that, because then you're going to learn if you're on the right track or not, because everything else you're doing is a waste of time. And I made this mistake growing Greenpal. It cost me a year. So that's one piece of advice I like to espouse is to figure out a way to get a credit card number. Like if you can't get a credit card number, you may not have business.
Nice. And it reminds me actually of a little management game that I've seen happening as well. That at companies you have those games that sometimes managers have to cooperate, and you have those marshmallows and some toothpicks, and they have to build a tower as high as possible within 10 minutes. Right?
I love it.
And then they're looking at different departments who has built the biggest tower. And actually the persons that are the best in building those towers are children. Because children just start building. And when it collapses, they've learned from it and they start building it in another way. Well, if you look at those managers, you know, they start thinking what's the best structure to build it, right? And at the end, they're short of time and they can't build a high tower.
Yes, and the cost of failure of a marshmallow tower falling is like pretty much zero, and the cost of failure in most every new business idea, especially technology ones, is pretty low. So get in there. Start trying things, get people to try to use it, start bumping up against stuff in the world, and then learn. And you'll learn so much more in a week of doing that than a year of planning.
Yeah, I can totally imagine that. So, Bryan, if people want to know more about Greenpal or get in touch with Greenpal or get in touch with you, how can you do that?
Yeah, anybody in the United States and soon to be Canada, you don't want to mow your own yard. It's too much of a waste of your time. Download Greenpal and the App Store or Play Store. And anybody who wants to reach me, Instagram is the best place to find me, Bryan M. Clayton. Just drop me a DM there.
Perfect. Bryan, I love talking to you about your business, and you're very successful in building businesses. I wish you all the best, and let's stay in touch.
Thank you, Erwin. I appreciate it. I enjoyed it.